One of the more interesting aspects of what I get to do as a professional fisherman is I not only get to design new crankbaits, but I actually get to do the final testing on them. And we're getting right down to the final stages of a new shallow flicker shad, and I needed to go to a place to test it. Now, when I start thinking of May, and I start thinking of a place where I can go and catch fish shallow and catch lots of them so I can go through all the different variations of the lure, I think northeast South Dakota and the glacial lakes in that area. So I called up my good buddy Cody Roswick. He fishes this area a lot. He's actually starting a guide service in this area. And I told him I need to get on a bunch of fish, and he said, I got the place for you. So we headed to Eden, South Dakota. We're gonna go on some shallow glacier lakes. We're gonna cast that new flicker shad, and we're gonna show you the next bite.
Just looking for the next bite, next bite, just looking for the next bite.
For over the last decade or so, the northeastern South Dakota glacial lakes were really just considered duck sloughs, absent of enough water to support any kind of fishable population of predator species, such as walleyes.
I love these little lakes. They're little fish factories.
However, multiple wet seasons have transformed these once overlooked waters into something quite amazing, and with the plethora of forage-based class fish, these glacial water walleyes can get very big very fast.
Isn't that right one?
Netter?
Yeah, why not?
Such an active and thriving populace of walleyes makes this the perfect proving grounds when doing comparative testing of new sizes of crankbaits.
Yeah, he just kind of glommed onto it. Didn't even really hit it that hard, just kind of. Okay, I know what to do now. Yeah. It's not like we have any like snags or anything out here, just middle of a little bay with mud.
So the biggest factor in the month of May is water temperature. What I look for is little back bay areas. Back bays that have a little depth, have a little weed growth in them. That seems to be a real key to finding the warmest water in the system. And I'm talking 2, 3, maybe 5 degrees warmer than the rest of the lake. It attracts bait fish. Obviously the predators are right there with them, but that water temperature is definitely key this time of year. The other place to look for fish is anything that's wind blown on the main lake. That seems to push the warmer water toward shore, creates that chain reaction. The bait fish are there, the predators are right along with them. Those are the two main factors, but the #1 key is water temperature.
The next bite is brought to you by Mercury Marine. Go boldly. Tracker boats. Fish the finest. Bass Pro Shops. Your adventure starts here. Berkley. Catch more fish. And MotorGuide. Accuracy matters. Closed captioning for the next bite is provided by Power Pole, the ultimate in shallow water anchors. While casting crankbaits can sometimes be considered a simple technique, one of the most important and fun factors is feeling the action of the bait during the retrieve. At times, it's like having a direct line of communication with the walleyes.
Come on, bite it. There you go. I had to coax him into it.
You had to talk to him.
Yeah.
Having this and being able to cast a good long distance not only covers more water, but more obviously keeps the boat away from these shallow water fish.
I put on that little #5 because it's a little shallower up in there. That 7 was running into the weeds too much. This one he kind of swiped at it. I felt it, so I just stopped and I
Give it a little twitch.
Twitch twice and boom.
Huh. Keith, about how deep do you think that little bait runs? Little number 5
I'm guessing like probably only a 2 or 3 foot bait.
Okay.
But we got that kind of grass on the bottom of this bay back there, and
that should be perfect for the
it's perfect.
depth of water.
It's perfect for this one anyway.
Yeah.
You got to tell your friends we like the bigger ones, all right? You guys are fine, but we want a little bit bigger, all right? So a lot of people wonder how we actually go about designing and testing a crankbait. Well, it actually takes a long time. You know, the shallow flicker sheds we're working on here on this trip, actually we probably started developing and designing them 1.5 years or 2 years ago. So it's been quite a long process. You get the right body shape and everything, and the right dive and the right action in the bait. But there's a lot more to it than that. And that's where we are right now. We're actually in the final prototype stages. They've got a mold built. All of the bodies of the crankbaits are the same, but internally we're changing around some of the rattles, some of the weights in there, so that you get just the right vibration and just the right rattle. Now, how do we know when it's just right? You catch lots of fish and see which one works the best. If you look at this box here, you'll see, you know, I've got a bunch of different labelings, F1, F2, number 9, number 8, number 1. All of these are just different versions of the exact same lure, and we're trying to figure out which one is going to catch the most walleyes. So we're using it in a bunch of different places. On this show here, we're casting up shallow with them. We're actually using the 2 different sizes that we're coming out with. The number 5 we're using when the water's a little bit shallower, like when we're in a back bay or something. Maybe my boat's only in 4 or 5 feet, casting up towards shore, and I want to skim just over the top of the weeds. It does have a little bit more subtle action than the bigger lure. Maybe it's a cold front, or the fish don't seem real excited about biting, or they're biting short. You go to a little bit more subtle action, number 5. It dives down to maybe 2 or 3 feet. The number 7, on the other hand, is going to dive a little bit deeper. So if you're off in 7, 8, 9 feet of water with the boat and casting up shallow, this thing will get down to about 4 or 5 feet. It's going to have a little bit wider action, a little bit more aggressive action. So as the water warms up and the summer comes on, this is going to be a better choice for you. The other nice thing about the 7 is, man, it really casts a long way. So even in a little bit of wind, you can get it out there and be covering a lot of water. So between these 2 lures, we've been catching lots of fish. I tell you what, the good thing is we found out some interesting stuff about the different versions to help you catch a lot of walleyes.
You know, I just switched to that perch colored flicker shad. This is a pretty good one.
Pretty good one means I should get the net.
Yeah, yeah. Whoa. Oh, it is a good one.
That's a good one. All right, just bring him a little bit this way. I got him.
Thank you.
Nice fish.
That's a good one. Yeah.
That's a good one. Oh, what is this color?
I made the little switch. I had a couple small perch chasing my bait, and I looked in the box. I said, aha, time to put a little perch flicker shad on there.
Yeah, I've seen those perch too. I'm sure they're eating some of them too.
Yeah.
Look at how he ate it. I mean, he got it right down, T-boned and everything. You got a pliers?
Yep, there's pliers. Get my little perchy out of there for me, would you?
There you go. Yeah, that's.
Well, let's put him back to work. That's a good-looking little perch.
It is. I mean, it really is a realistic-looking perch.
It is one of the best I've seen.
Fooled this guy. Look at he's going. That's a job, darn perch. All right, nice fish. All right, let's see. Put up a pretty good fight, but he should be fine. Come on. There you go. Thank you.
Real-time fishing information from all the pros in one place at WalleyeChatter.com.
It's absolutely amazing what these graphs can do nowadays. All I'm doing right now is simply graphing a channel edge, looking for fish marks. Some may be suspended just off the bottom. And you'll actually see on my 2D sonar right here, I can see a few marks that were laying just off the edge of the break, but just off the bottom as well too. And one of the things that you can do to make sure that not only do you know the area that those fish are in, but the exact location, make sure that you hit the touch screen, the cursor right on the fish. We're gonna hit waypoint twice. It's actually gonna drop a waypoint behind the boat quite a ways, exactly where that mark was. But the beauty is obviously not all the time I'm just gonna be looking for fish in situations like this. I may be graphing a weed edge with my side scan. So you literally can just drive down that weed edge, continue to use the touch screen, drop the waypoints on the weed edge, and it'll give you a whole line of waypoints down that weed edge. So it's very easy to always stay right by that edge, whether you're casting to it, whether you're trolling. One of the things too that we do a lot of is graphing at high speeds. And there's a feature in these LOWRANCE units that I use a ton of, especially when I'm looking for open water fish when I'm graphing fast. I might be running 20, 25 miles an hour, and I'll see a pot of fish, but you maybe not hit it right away. And there's a scroll back feature that you can use, and it's simply just going back to your 2D when you see those fish at high speeds, and you can actually scroll back. You can see where I dropped the previous waypoints right there. Scroll back as far as, oh, say, let's mark that fish right there. That was quite a ways back. And so at high speeds, you'll actually see that it dropped it all the way back to that last fish. So when I'm looking for open water fish, I'll use that scroll back feature quite often to make sure that I see the right things that I want to see and drop those waypoints. So a combination of using your 2D, your side scan, your down scan, when you touch those areas, it's going to drop the waypoint perfectly on your GPS, exactly where you always want to be.
Hey, let's talk a little bit about the equipment that I'm using to catch these shallow water walleyes up here in these prairie lakes. First thing is you want about a 7-foot long rod. I like a little bit longer rod for this casting because it does let you cast a little bit further, but I do go to a medium light rod so that when a fish bites, I got a little bit of shock absorption, mainly because I'm fishing a no stretch line. I'm using 10-pound test nano here. It's a very slick line. It casts a little bit further. When I'm reeling this bait back, I want to be able to feel it, boom, 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 going down there and working right. If I hit a little bit of weeds or debris, I can feel it getting mushy. I can snap the rod and try and free it up. But more importantly, with the no stretch line, I can actually feel the bites of a walleye, because many times they'll try and get it but not actually get it in their mouth. You might feel a little tick or a little swipe or a little pause. Any of those things that happens, then I actually pause the bait or I twitch it a little bit, trying to trigger that fish to swing back around and actually hit it again. Now, we take and tie that nanofill right up to a small clip, just a little cross-lock snap here, and that would go on to our 7 or 5 shallow flicker shads. Now, as far as colors, when it's darker out, cloudy, starting to get a little dark at night or whatever, it seemed like the whitish colors were better, the purple tigers, the whites like this. If it gets a little clear out or bright out, then the perchier colors seem to be the best for when we were out here fishing. So make sure you got a no stretch situation, you know, cast up over the weeds for these fish, and you will get these shallow water walleyes up in these South Dakota prairie lakes.
The size of these prairie glacial lakes may vary, and while there will be pockets of highly concentrated bait fish and walleyes, there are also going to be vacant stretches of just weeds.
The old number 5 shallow flicker shad.
So the beta to keep the action going is striking a good balance between moderately fast exploration, but then pausing to see if one pilot bite could potentially mean 3 or 4 more.
Life going on down here, though.
I got one, Cody.
Yeah? Wow, you are on fire.
He's a decent one. Go ahead and grab the net.
Okay.
Come on right up here. I'm gonna throw it in anchor quick, and so we can remember our spot. We weren't getting many bites along this stretch, but all of a sudden,
yeah.
And he's a fighter too. He's not happy about coming to the old eagle there.
No, he's not.
Here he comes.
These shallow water fish, they've got a lot of energy, don't they?
Yeah. That's a nice one.
It is.
That is a good one.
A little lull in the action, but this one will do.
Yeah, I mean, the stuff looked right here. The water's a hair cleaner here. Maybe that's why
yeah.
they're in a bunch here, but the right one was here.
Yeah.
The right one was here. Look at that new shallow flicker shad has just been dynamite as we test that.
It's a perfect water for me out here in the Dakotas. We do a lot of casting year round, and it just runs the perfect depth. Great action.
But this one seems to be good if you get out in that, 6-7 foot, throwing up into 2 and 3.
Yep.
Then you can go to the smaller one if you get shallower. But that's a nice fish there.
It is.
Heck yeah, I'll take that every day. Mm-hmm. And I didn't have to pause or nothing, just
That's where we like them.
Very
Good
nice.
aggressive walleyes.
Get you back in the water, buddy. There you go.
Little glide and go. As we're casting these areas, say maybe a shallow bay or an area where the wind is pushing into a shoreline, what we're finding is that the fish are a little bit off of shore. They aren't right tight up on the shore, so you want to cast a little ways offshore and then get that crankbait running just above the weeds. We also even make some casts out into the bay because it's really not that deep here, and many times they're out roving around there. So what I like to do is stay a little bit more than a cast off the shore, work down these shorelines fairly quickly. I've actually got my trolling motor set so that I'm running 0.7 to maybe a mile an hour. I typically go with the wind if there's any wind so I can get a better cast. But what I do is put this engine in heading lock. And so that's just a little button on your pad here. You put it in heading lock. It will keep the engine going the last way that I pointed it. So what I'll do a lot of times is I'll adjust the way I want the engine to go. I'll make my cast, I'll work the bait in, but then after each cast, what I might do is just reach down and readjust the head a little to keep me that right distance off of shore. Now, if I actually catch a fish or we get a bite or there's some activity in an area, what I immediately do then is hit the other button, anchor lock, and that will take and stop the boat right in the spot that we're in, so that after we reel in the fish or we take a few more casts to try and catch that fish, maybe I'll save a waypoint. We can look at the situation a little bit more. Is there something different about the shoreline or the weeds here, so that we can try and figure out where the fish are. The nice thing is, if you look at your LOWRANCE unit, I got a status bar right up at the top of there that tells me, am I in anchor, am I in heading lock, what mode am I in, so that when I'm ready to start working down that shoreline again, I know which buttons to press and get going.
The next bite is brought to you by Mercury Marine. Go boldly. Tracker Boats. Fish the finest. Bass Pro Shops. Your adventure starts here. Berkley. Catch more fish. LOWRANCE. Find, navigate, dominate. MotorGuide trolling motors engineered for anglers. Strike King, legacy of domination for 50 years. And Power Pole, swift, silent, secure. Hot topics, leading information, and tackle and techniques to make you a better angler. Presented by Mercury.
Here's a mystery question for you. When you're trailering, do you put your kicker in the up position, trimmed up, or do you put it in the trimmed down position? I've seen a lot of guys do both, and I think probably for a short little trip, trimmed up isn't going to hurt anything, but Mercury recommends that you trailer your kicker in the trimmed down position. The reason for that is twofold. One is that the bracketing system and the hydraulics were designed to trailer in this down position, not in the trimmed up position. The other thing that it does do is when it's trimmed down, it puts less stress on your transom. So you should really end up looking at in the long term, you're going to be a lot kinder to the transom of your boat and to the brackets of your kickers if you trailer with it in the trimmed down position.
While feeling the action of these crankbaits is crucial, regardless of the choice and size or even which version of these test lures are excelling over others. For Keith Gavias and Cody Roswick, there are still technical choices being made in their presentations that can have a big impact on triggering walleyes to commit out of the safety of their South Dakota shallow water weed beds.
Just barely, you know, they're kind of whacking at it, and one thing you want to do, at least that I've found, is when you feel a tick, if you stop, twitch, a lot of times they'll come right back and hit it again. It's like that first time is just them thinking maybe they wounded it or something.
We obviously know that they're following it because we're getting multiple bumps along the shoreline. So I think you're right, just that little twitch can make the difference. So the conditions we're faced with here in South Dakota is a little bit of a cold front conditions, and there's a couple things that are making a big difference in our catch rates. We're catching lots of fish, and number one is just a slow retrieve. In fact, uncomfortably slow, and that really seems to make the difference. Secondly is just pausing the retrieve. Simply simply stop reeling, the bait stops, it's almost neutrally buoyant at that point, and it triggers some strikes. And then number 3, we're actually finding that the fish are bumping the bait every once in a while, and when that happens, we just twitch the bait. We pause the bait, we twitch it, and then they're coming back and eating it. And those 3 things, the slowing your retrieve, the pause, and the twitch, are really catching a lot of fish.
Good one?
Decent, yeah.
I get the net for you. Here I come. Staying down.
It is.
Oh, yeah, it's a real good one. Oh, yeah. Come to Papa.
Yeah, let's hit that rock spine real quick before we come in. Yes!
Yeah! Baby, look at this thing.
Wow.
It ain't the fattest in the world, but holy man, look at the
That's
length of that thing.
Yep.
I can understand why he's eating the old flicker shad, and that's a number 7. You pulled out a new color on me, didn't you?
I did.
But tell you what a great trip we've had here. You know, we've literally caught a ton of fish. The nice thing is I got to test out these new shallow flicker shads. We picked out the model number that we need, and
oh, they're the perfect bait for the Dakotas.
Nice job, Cody, man. That was right up on that rock spine back there, wasn't it?
Yep, right on the rocks.
A little bit of boulders up there. Yeah. And just hammered it. But again, just a great trip. If you haven't come out here to the Glacial Lakes, this one is way in northeast South Dakota. Up by Eden, South Dakota. Cody has started to guide up here now if you want to come and have just a great time. Catch lots of fish with the potential of some really, really nice fish. And there ain't nothing funner than casting crankbaits. Believe me, they hit them hard, and it's just a great bite. So come up and visit Cody, catch some big walleyes, throw some flicker shads, and have some fun.
Thanks for coming.
Very nice, very nice. All right, let's get this big girl back in and see if she's going to be happy, and there she goes. So when you're fishing these smaller lakes like this, sometimes you get in a little bit skinny water, really, really shallow, and one of the best engines to use is just get on your kicker. You can actually trim it up. This pro kicker's got trim and tilt. Trim it up a little. When you go in reverse, it lifts the back end up, and you can pull right out of some real skinny water. So don't wreck your props. Use your kicker.
Just through the fabric.
Nice. Tell me when to set the hook. Just checking out the hooks on the old flicker shad, you know?
Yeah.
Yes, they work.
They're super sticky.
It's a rare breed in North Dakota. It's the white-tipped-tailed northern pike.
The Next Bite would like to thank Cody Roswick of Fin Hunters Guide Service, specializing in fishing the Central Dakotas, Devil's Lake, and northeastern South Dakota. For more info on Fin Hunters Guide Service, please visit www.fin-hunters.com.